Episode 1 of Hard Knocks with the New York Giants was pretty electric. I'm going to be honest. Now, for the people that aren't aware, it is Hard Knocks in the business side of it when it comes to the front office, when it comes to drafting, free agency, obviously roster construction overall, talking about hiring new coaches. A lot of things that happened for the New York Giants this past offseason, especially considering what happened last season altogether. Now, just going straight into it, man, one of the biggest takeaways was Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was like the main focal point in this episode. Now, they did dibble and dabble everywhere. Like everything we've seen in the trailer leading up to it, they dibbled and dabbled with when it comes to Brian Burns, when it comes to obviously Daniel Jones coming back from rehab, Saquon Barkley's contract situation. They jumped right into Saquon's contract situation off rip. And at the end of the episode is kind of where we left off with it as well. And the ending of the episode is probably the best part of it, in my opinion, especially seeing just feeling the tension in the room. But we'll get there when we get there. They talk about Saquon's contract situation, and my biggest takeaways from it is Joe Shane was, kind of standoffish from the beginning, it seems like. He was very, just saying how the value for that running back position and at the age that Saquon is, it wouldn't necessarily be beneficial for the Giants. And a lot of us said that. A lot of us did love and appreciate Saquon, and as we know, he's not a New York Giant today. But Saquon Barkley was the biggest part of our team and one of the biggest parts of our team, and he has been for the past couple of years. So it was a big situation, especially considering him leaving and going elsewhere, especially where he is now. But Saquon Barkley, we know how electric of a player he is. They knew how electric of a player he is. And just looking at it and seeing Joe Shane talk about the fact that, he even spoke with the other general managers and even Frank Gore, that little portion with Frank Gore where he was talking about after 27, production declines. Production declines completely. And how for some other prospects, they're coming in, they might not have that much, carries on their legs. Saquon Barkley had 900 at Penn State. Obviously a lot of people know stuff about Saquon, but he wasn't even part of the front office when the New York Giants drafted Saquon. And he had that ready to go. I'm sure he's had plenty of discussions with a lot of the people in the building and outside of the building about Saquon and the reason why they're not keeping him. A couple other things. Daniel Jones being talked about. Daniel Jones being the $40 million man. Joe Shane mentioned that a couple of times. And listen, a lot of people aren't going to be a fan of this. And I can't say I'm necessarily a fan of it. But Joe Shane is just saying, like, I'm sticking with Daniel Jones. We paid him $40 million. He's going to be paid $40 million a year. I'm sticking with him, and I'm not giving up on him because you saw what that offensive was last year. The offensive line was terrible last year. And Joe Shane spoke on that, and his mannerisms and stuff, it was pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. If you haven't seen the episode, once again, make sure you check it out. But, cussing up a storm left and right and just saying you got Patrick Mahomes back there, you still won't succeed. And that's just like us. And I think for us being Giants fans, getting the opportunity to see our front offense work like this, it's refreshing to see. And also just seeing that some of the conversations that you and I have on a normal basis, they do as well. Him saying Patrick Mahomes wouldn't survive, that was one of my lines these past couple years because the offensive line has been that bad. Does that necessarily mean that Dan Jones should be the guy if the offensive line is right? That's what we're waiting to see. And here we are, year 6 heading into it, and we still do not know if that will be the case. And it seems that Joe Shane doesn't either. Now, we talked about it prior. Apparently, the Giants were looking into trading up for a QB. They are not going to show any of that. I promise you they probably will not. This next episode is looking like it's going to be about the combine and looking at potential quarterbacks, but I don't think they're going to entertain it too much in the way that we know it was, especially considering all the rumblings that we heard with them talking with the Patriots. But who knows? I don't know exactly how the series is going to go, but you've seen it. He was talking about Daniel Jones. He's saying that we're going to ride with Daniel Jones, and him coming back from this injury is huge, but him getting with the new offensive line and getting protected is the number one focal point, and that's what Joe Shane was saying. And you saw how they carried that out in free agency. They signed a guard, they signed a tackle, they signed some depth offensive linemen. They pretty much signed a whole bunch of linemen and threw them in competition and trying to see who's going to be able to step up and actually protect our quarterback because that's what they need to do. Other little tidbits they tapped on, Shane Bowen coming over and getting hired, showing that process. They didn't show Dayball too much, but I expect to see him a lot more in these next couple of episodes. They also spoke on where can they add on this team, whether it's defensive line, the running back position. Showing little breakdowns and seeing the guys that they were interested in is really good to see. Once again, this show is also going to bring on some newcomers that don't know who the Giants are and what their identity is and what they're trying to upgrade with, but also the people that don't really understand football altogether. That's what they're there for, showing little highlights of these top players. Them even talk about signing Chris Jones was hilarious because there was no way that was going to happen, especially considering their price tag. But just seeing the guys that they were interested in, and also considering the price tag. Price tag was obviously the heavy point with all of these players because they didn't have all the money in the world. But seeing what they were able to work out and seeing in hindsight, with hindsight, seeing who they rolled with. Obviously, Devin Singletary was the focal point and he got signed. But you saw them interested in Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss. Derrick Henry was up there. I'm not too sure if they were interested in him, but he was noted. A couple of different other players. So it's really interesting to see that side of it. Obviously, Brandon Brown is going to be a featured person as well. And we all know Brandon Brown's going to get a GM job somewhere sometime soon. But seeing all that go down was very interesting to see, and I'm glad to be able to see it overall. Like I said, I think they touched on a lot of the things that we knew they were going to touch on. That little segment with Joe Shane talking with the Panthers GM, the new GM at the time, that's great to see. That, like, getting access like that and seeing how a simple conversation, like that casual conversation that they were having, Joe Shane and the Panthers GM are buddies. They had a casual conversation where he's joking around and saying, hey, you want to trade up to 6? And he's like, nah, man, I'm staying where I'm at. And then letting Joe Shane know, hey, trade 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns. That casually got thrown in there, got slipped in there, and guess what? It went from 2 first-round picks to we didn't even trade a single first-round pick for Brian Burns. It was the 2nd and the 5th. So, I mean, you love to see it. You love to see overall how Joe Shane's able to manipulate these trades in general. But just seeing how a small conversation like that kind of sparked up at, the Senior Bowl and transitioned into the trade that we know happened, and we're probably going to see it this next episode. It's crazy. You think these guys are super, like, focused businessmen that kind of are just straight cut and dry. But no, man. There's a lot of finesse when it comes to it. My pun intended. But Joe Shane, once again, smooth criminal. The way he operates with these trades, so I love to see that. And overall, man, I mean, you can really see the front office as a whole are the people that come together and make these decisions. You got directors of player scouting, really, bringing up players and introducing them to Joe Shane and seeing how they would fit necessarily on that team, seeing how Joe Shane feels about it. You see how the whole hiring process when it comes to who they want as defensive coordinator, Dayball made that decision. It wasn't Joe Shane, Dayball. And even that small little segment with Mara, where Mara came in and was talking about, what are we going to do if we lose Saquon? I still really want to bring him back. As we know, we felt like Mara was operating this team and forcing too much on the GM. Joe Shane, if it was up to Joe Shane, Saquon's not back. If it was up to Mara, Saquon would have been back. And that's loud and clear after you see that interaction with Mara and Joe Shane. Mara was going ahead and letting us know, hey, man, I really would still want Saquon back, but if we don't, are we going to draft a running back high? And Joe Shane is like, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're not going to do this again. Seeing the way the business operates once again and seeing the way that teams operate with the running back position, we know what Saquon was for this team, but business is business. And I think, once again, we'll talk about it now. That last little couple minutes of Hard Knocks episode, this episode that just came out, I think was the most important one. And, it got me fired up, to be honest. It really got me fired up. Where they turn on the music, you hear the music playing in the background, and they're really getting to it where they're saying, hey, man, like, do we really think Saquon's not going to be able to get that money? I can't remember his name, but that gentleman, he was talking a lot, throughout the episode, and he was saying, do we really expect Saquon not to be able to get that money? And it was basically just speaking on it in terms of, again, that trade going, because they could have franchise tagged Saquon and tried to trade him. There's no way that was actually going to happen. Joe Shane was saying, I don't see it happening, and I just don't see us really signing him. We shouldn't sign him. You had other guys in the room saying, okay, if we lose Saquon, then what is our identity? What is our identity overall? Now we know, yes, Saquon's been our identity. He was explosive, one of the best players on the team, but this team still was not good. If this team was 13-4 with Saquon Barkley back there, then maybe I would be shooting myself in the foot about losing him. But we haven't been good these past couple of years. The offense has still been lackluster. And I feel like, when it comes to the way fans look at it and even, some people in that front office, yes, Saquon is, the biggest name and, the most highly featured player overall. But our team has still not been good. We need to change some things. And Joe Shane was saying, Daniel Jones, this is his team. We paid him $40 million. We're not paying him $40 million to hand off to a $12 million running back. He said it straight like that. And when I heard that, I was just like, man, He was not intended on signing Saquon overall. And even spoke on last year. Obviously, we went through the whole drama with Saquon last year. And he said how it took 10 years off his life. It was that, emotionally draining for him. And I can only imagine for Saquon as well. Once again, we're still got more to see. There's still that clip out there where he's on the phone with Saquon saying, "Are you going to give us a shot?" So we're still going to see that in another episode. But as we know, Joe Shane didn't want to sign Saquon. He was not on that board, and it seems like he wasn't on that board pretty early. So no shocker that did not happen. You've seen some guys in there that wanted it to happen, but here we are, man. Once again, man, I think for episode 1, it was great to see overall, and great to see the little sneak peeks in behind, and also just seeing how they operate on a daily basis, seeing how the moment that the season ends, boom, we got to get to the combine. Boom, we got to get to the Senior Bowl. Boom, we got to start addressing what needs do we have, and free agency is coming soon, so we got to start making some moves. Cornerback was mentioned, and we didn't really touch on cornerback this offseason, so I'm interested to see if there's still a chance that they do, because Joe Shane did mention that as a priority. But once again, man, there's so much more to come. We know the Brian Burns trade happened. We know who we ended up signing in free agency, but it's just a matter of how they went about those things. And even with this combine coming up, you saw a little sneak peek with them talking with neighbors on the pre-draft workout and all that such. It's going to be good to see, man, and see how they really, hone in on certain prospects. And once again, I don't think they'll show too many players that they were in love with, but we do know they were in love with Drake May. I'm really interested to see. I haven't seen a single highlight. We saw J.J. McCarthy and all that. You haven't seen anything with Drake May. Once again, man, I loved what I saw. Let me know down in the comments, man, your favorite part from this episode. Once again, we will be live tomorrow night as well to talk about it with you guys. Probably around 8:39. I'll make sure I post it up, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But let me know down in the comments, man, your favorite part. And if you're new to the channel, man, subscribe. We'll be dropping a reaction every single day. After every single day that the episode drops, we're dropping a reaction, man. So stay tuned for that. I will catch you on the next one. Catch you tomorrow night. Peace.